Okay, here we are, part two of our conversation with the lovely, inspiring Michael. How do you pronounce your last name? Hrostoski?
Yeah, yeah. That's if you had a friend named Ross and you wanted him to toss you some keys, so Ross Toski. My 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 brother came up with that a decade ago. It's been
That's sweet.
helpful, helpful ever since.
Cool. Well, I'm happy to be back for part two of our conversation. Um,
Same.
all around I called the first conversation sexual mysticism and entrepreneurship.
hmm hmm
Um, and yeah, we'll continue to explore these two different domains and how they interact with each other. Is there anything um, to start us off that comes to your mind when it comes to? So I'm a big fan of cross-domain learning. I think
Same.
like
Very much
one,
so.
one of my business mentors, I don't know if they termed it, probably not, but like the difference between I learning and T learning. So like I
Okay.
learning is like you go super deep in one domain, and T learning is like sort of you go across domain and you're able to take with you insights from like one area to another. And
hmm
they're saying like that's basically like that's one of the keys to like innovate any kind of area that you're in, is like you're taking insights from not just like this particular domain, but other places, because that's how, like new ideas will come in. So from that perspective, is there anything that comes to your mind in terms of how either entrepreneurship has inspired your sex life, or insights from your sex life has kind of have trickled over into how you're showing up in your business?
Yeah, for sure. I will speak to the latter where doing this work around sexuality and sacred sexuality and going to a few intensives and dating a few women who are very experienced sexual practitioners and meeting other men who had just very deep practices. That had such a positive effect on every area of my life. Just 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 so much. I remember I went to like a 3-day event with a very like famous like teacher of sacred sexuality, and I remember walking out and just thinking like I I paid like 3 grand for that. Like I would have paid $30,000 for that. Like what now lives in my body? Like I just experienced something that's so valuable and it lives in my body forever. And I I remember I I remember like doing this work in 2013, and then all of a sudden walking into a new reality where a lot of women who just felt like they were like out of my league before, just like certain women that are just like, I don't know, models or just very beautiful, or just something like that, just somatically and energetically, like they were leaning into me and they're like, ooh, who's this guy? And my entire reality, like the quality the of the women that started showing up in my life, um, it's like I went into like a completely different dating pool where the women who I was dating then were and attracting were, women who would date like, professional athletes and, extremely successful business people. And they were leaning in because I had something that not a lot of men like give themselves, because they don't know that it exists. Like I'm still wrapping my head around it 10 years later, and I know Rob is as well, of just like, wow, what's it like to be a man who uh, kind of like breaks through the sexual matrix of the conditioning that lives in our bodies and the water that we're swimming in, and then actually like reconnects with his essence and his life force, and just how much better that is than everything else that I did before. Yeah, I'm still like wrapping my head around it, and there's continual ongoing discoveries in sex for me, in my body, in how energy moves through my body, in how I show up to the world, which is so fun. And it's so glorious and um, something I like to just like lovingly ask people sometimes is like, why not be great at sex? Just like why not see what's possible? Like why not see like what's possible in your body in terms of experiencing like ecstatic states of bliss and union with your beloved and heart open primal fucking and connecting soul to soul. Like, can you give me any reason why you wouldn't want to do that? Like,
Mm.
because I can't.
I can. Yeah,
Yeah, great.
there's immediately something coming up that I think I sometimes experience when it comes to the sexual realm, which is a part in me that like shies away from intensity.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
great,
that's
great.
like that's uncomfortable. Like it's a lot and it's unpredictable and
Mhm, mhm,
it's not, it's not what I'm used to. So this kind of like
mhm,
instinctive pulling away from uh I mean stepping into the unknown and
mhm, mhm.
letting go of control, all of these things. Like
Beautiful, beautiful.
I mean, obviously, I don't think anyone would actually like say that as a reason, like, oh, this is why I'm not interested. But I think
Mhm.
that is like one of the bigger reasons why um, many of us don't go more deeply into the direction that you were just describing.
Gorgeous articulation of a universal experience that all humans have based off of our desire to like feel safe and secure in our bodies and in our identities and in our nervous systems. Um, and I have that as well. And and the way that I meet that part is just by like not overstepping my boundaries in sex.
Hmm.
Which Rob and I have, I don't even know, 50, 60 like teachings and all these exercises. And we have this huge like library in Notion that like we just keep building and adding to to support men in this, like in this quest of just having sex that like transforms you and supports your awakening and the awakening of your beloved. And one of the most important teachings that I've seen a lot of men get a lot of relief from is to just never overstep your boundaries.
Hmm.
And and most men have like no real like embodied somatic felt connection of what their boundaries are because they've been using porn, so they've been having sex through their mind and not in their body, not like actually tracking the sensations of their body. Or when they were young, which this was the the case for me, and I still have aspects of it, but like I'm so much more in control of like my body and my energy and my desires and my impulses. But as a teenager, if if a girl was like, hey, like, do you want me to touch your dick or like suck your dick? I'd be like, oh my God, yes, please, please. Like, I need that so bad. I need it so bad. Please, please touch my dick. Please touch my dick. Right? Like,
Quickly before she changes her mind.
and like, gosh, like that felt so uncomfortable, even like even acting that out, But yeah, like that's the that's the, like the teenage. And there's movies about this, right? There's all these like coming of age movies like American Pie and like Road Trip and these like silly silly movies where just teenage boys are doing anything to like have sex. But but that's just like a phase that boys go through, you know, before they become men, especially without any healthy, embodied, integrated examples of sexuality.
Mm.
around them. So, um, so instead of doing that, instead of doing that, just be so intimate with your sensations and your emotions and your impulses, and and instead of like reaching out, trying to like, oh my gosh, like let me be with that, like really like rest in yourself, like rest. Rob and I talk a lot about just like resting in your spine
Mm.
and just kind of like leaning back a little bit and just being with what is. And that shifts the whole like energetics of the experience to be way more pleasurable for you and for her. And that continues to build. So it's like building this deeper like masculine core, building more of the ability to stay within. Um, and then things like again start to open up in sometimes really amazing ways. But I love that question because what I don't suggest is what I don't suggest is just being like, YOLO, fuck it. I'm just gonna like, I'm just gonna do something that like doesn't feel right for myself, but fuck
Mm.
it. Which a lot of people do. And that's a abandoning of oneself. Like, if someone just goes, oh fuck it, I'm gonna try it, like who cares? It doesn't matter anyway. Like, I can handle extreme stuff. So many people are unconsciously abusing their bodies,
Yep.
like through through their unconscious patterning in sexuality, through the food that they put in their body and the substances that they put in their body, even the content that they watch on like YouTube and TikTok and different like horror movies on Netflix. Like so many people just abuse themselves
Yeah.
all the time. But then as you and I know, the more connected that we get to like our actual feelings of like, how are you actually feeling about this? Then that's what starts that like reclamation process of being true to oneself, right? Like to thine own self be true. And I'd say a big part of that for me was getting my life coaching training in 2012, where I thought I was just gonna like learn all these like cool questions to be able to coach leaders and to help people, which I did, but in actuality, I just like cried for 9 months. Like no shit. There was so much unprocessed grief
Mm.
in my nervous system as being a man who grew up in America and who was born in the 80s. Like there was just no space for like processing. You know, I grew up in a time where showing any kind of like weakness was like gay or weak or punished on the playground. So and and my father's generation had it even worse, and my grandfather's generation had it even worse around just being able to like express some of like the feminine aspects of being which every human being has, right? Our
Mm.
sensitivity, our care, our intuition, our sensuality. Um, so just through that reclamation process, as more and more of that lands in my body, then that creates like the fertile soil for greater sexual discovery, deeper friendships, enjoying food more, like enjoying life more, enjoying nature more. And that has a like a direct correlation to your ability to enjoy sex.
Yep.
So so many men have like so many like heart walls and so much armor, which like it's not their fault. Like it's just it's their compensation patterns for childhood trauma. But so many men have just like all this armoring that's it's heartbreaking that it's keeping them from enjoying life. Like to actual on a somatic level to like enjoy how good it feels to make love with a woman that you feel safe with and that loves you and is that devoted to you
Mm.
and who chooses you and to like just feel all that like eros and feminine energy just moving through your body and breaking your heart open into like bliss and ecstasy and timelessness and then after you are both just like a sweaty mess of orgasmic fuck just like laying there and feeling a peace that's deeper than any peace you've ever felt in your life. And I had that experience like in the past year, just laying there feeling a peace that's deeper than any peace that I've ever felt my whole life after sex. And we can all have that. Like that's why, because we're all human. And so I'm noticing, I just want to track. I'm noticing that like I'm going a little farther into I'm allowing myself to riff a little more than before
Mhm.
because I too am someone who is more of a T learner than an I learner.
Mhm.
I'm like a TT learner. Like I just love going deep into into everything. So with that said, I'm gonna I'm gonna riff a little bit more and 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 also share that this is one of my favorite things to do is to be in transformational conversation, to
Mhm.
be in this conversational jazz where together you and I can go way farther than we can go alone,
Mhm.
just through the mirroring of the questions and like being met in the deepest like outskirts of our understanding of reality. Like this is my favorite sport. So I did so on a personal level, I'm so fucking happy to be here because
Mhm.
right now we're playing my favorite sport.
Beautiful. Um, yeah, I want to riff a bit more on, let's see, how many things I want to bring in. So you were talking about how we abuse ourselves, um,
Yes.
and how we're not
Yeah.
aware of that. And so what it made me think of is how then what we call our dysfunctions are actually ways our body's trying to protect us from the abuse we're inflicting on ourselves. So, for example, um, premature ejaculation was a theme for me
Mhm. Mhm.
about, it was a big theme for me about 4 or 5 years ago, where I just noticed I did not feel like I really had a choice on how long I wanted to have sex, especially penetrative sex. It
Okay.
just felt like I was very quickly on the edge. And
Mm.
so it was like most of my focus went into like managing that excitement. And
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
yeah, just it was hard to really sort of have this like spaciousness in sex. And
Mhm.
over time, I realized it was really connected to me overstepping boundaries in the sexual space and my body just being like, I don't feel safe, like I don't experience safety and being able to really do what I want to do in the space, so let me find a way to end this quickly.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that was really powerful to be like, oh, like of course, like I can do all this kind of stuff to delay ejaculation, but there's like a different lever around boundaries, and like really listening to what feels good right now and what doesn't, that is just, exponentially more powerful, plus has tons of other positive side effects besides just lasting longer. Like, um, yeah, I feel like that's one of the things we can fall into, especially as men, I think, like to like get hyper fixated on like this one thing that we want to change. And then maybe
Mm.
we find some kind of way to do that, but it's like this kind of bootstrapped like quick fix.
Mhm.
Whereas it often is, I mean, it sometimes feels slower, but to zoom out and be like, what if this problem that I'm looking at is not actually a problem, but a solution to something that is not, that I'm not seeing yet. And I mean, this goes also to any kind of inner work, like any part that comes up that I really don't like, or some kind of behavior that I fall into. Instead of being like, how can I change that, to look at why does this make sense that it is how it is? And then once I have that, I don't I'm not at war with this part or this behavior or this issue there usually just is already way more space around it so that I can uh, navigate it differently and fix the issue, but on a much more like holistic way. And to make this super practical, one thing that I've actually recently started doing with my partner, and I want to give a shout out to another sex educator, um, Taylor Johnson is his name.
Yeah, yeah, yep, yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know him personally, but I love his presence on YouTube. Yeah, sure.
Nice. So he has this thing, and I'm pretty sure it's not his, but he calls it the better sex conversation. And it's just
Mhm,
like a couple of questions to go through when you want to have sex with someone.
mhm,
Um, there's a bit of like a longer one if it's like the first encounter.
mhm,
But with my partner, we just do desires, fears, boundaries.
mhm,
And especially the fears part for me really helps me see it like the parts that actually, maybe don't want to be here or that are anticipating that something is going to happen that they actually don't want. And often just by naming that and seeing like, oh, here's like past experiences that are kind of projecting that something is going to happen into the future, just being able to hold that um just helps me see like, oh, I mean, I can choose. Like this doesn't have to happen. And yeah, I feel like that's one of the things that would have helped me a couple of years ago when this like premature ejaculation stuff was uh, a big theme for me. Um, to have this conversation and to just notice more of my own fears of entering the sexual space.
gorgeous. So you spoke about choice. Love is that which enables choice is one of my favorite quotes. It's from Forrest Landry, who I think is just one of the just like the world's greatest living philosophers. I've only met him once, but it was it was like sitting. I felt like I was sitting in front of like a mix of like Ben Franklin and like one of those old like talking trees from like a like a mystical dude. Just a man who's just in his field, just so full of wisdom. I highly recommend a lot of his writing. Yeah, so like love is that which enables choice, is one of my core axioms in life.
Mhm.
And men almost forget that they have choice in the bedroom,
Mhm.
right? Because there's so much fear. Most men go into a trauma reflex
Yep.
in the bedroom, and everything that they think sex is just sexual energy moving through trauma reflexes. So so what that looks like is like the chest caving in, really shallow breathing, like that kind of like shallow breathing and like the hips rocking like a dog, like humping your leg, real constriction, like constriction in the face, um, the voice closing up. These are all things that I experienced, just the such a constricted state that they're often not aware of because it's like, oh, my dick's finally being touched and this feels good.
Yep.
So so this is perfect. Thank God my dick is in a warm hole because I just masturbate and watch porn all day. So this is 1,000 times better to have an actual human who's not me touching my dick.
Mhm.
So and 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 that's okay too, right? So the every like we all used to shit our pants. And we all used to not be able to walk. So there's like developmental stages of childhood development and walking and talking, and there's developmental stages of becoming an adult and being able to provide for herself and make meals for herself, and there's developmental stages of sexual maturity, just like anything else. So I definitely, like anything that any man has experienced, I've probably experienced. And most men don't know how common all of these different issues are, whether it's premature ejaculation or erectile dysfunction, which I had both of those like extensively in my 20s, um, or just all these like different like hangups where like we think that something's wrong with us, or like that like we're like dirty or wrong or just like totally fucked up or broken beyond beyond redemption. And then in any circle where a man shares something, oftentimes like half the room raises their hand and they're like, "Oh yeah, bro, like me too. Like I got that going on right now in my marriage." And it's like, "What? Like you do? Like you're like a powerful badass entrepreneur and like you have all these kids and like I would have never guessed that."
Mm,
And and that's what's been so healing even for me on a personal level. Just like for me, the man Michael sitting in circle with men having authentic conversations around sex just melted so much of the shame that I had of my sexual issues that I was like beating myself up for as a younger man because I thought that there was something like really, really wrong with me when I was just in lower stages of the sexual, phases of sexual development. Like I was just in stages of sexual immaturity, and I hadn't had, counsel and advice and guidance from men with sexual maturity. Like nothing wrong with that. Just like I used to shit my pants and not be able to ride a bicycle without training wheels. So I want to like really like
mm,
lay that deep context of honoring men's humanness and yeah, and just being like, bro, like there's nothing wrong with you at all. Like there's nothing wrong with any of us. Um, and then to speak to the proclivity of men wanting to fix things. Of course, we love fixing problems, but then there's that like age-old dance between men and women where women just want to be listened to, and the man goes right into fixing it. There's that like famous YouTube video of like the woman with like the nail in her head. And then the guy's like, you have a nail in your head. And she's like, I just want you to listen to me. Right. So that's that's that, timeless archetypal pattern of men wanting to like fix things. Um, and and wanting to fix things, but bypassing their bodies and bypassing their emotions. So
mm,
it's a synthesis, right? It's a synthesis of using our ability to create and to build and to engineer and to architect the more beautiful world that our hearts know is possible, using that like Charles Eisenstein quote, which I love. And it's also bringing our body fully along for the ride, so that we're actually able to like enjoy what it feels like to be human and like enjoy what it feels like to dance. Like I had an experience in ecstatic dance a couple years ago where and it's funny like this feels vulnerable to talk about just because it's like just because of my conditioning and programming. So like I'm just noticing that I'm tracking right now. But I had an experience where I was moving so beautifully through time and space that I was observing the beauty of like my dance and I started crying. It was so sweet. Like I was just moving as just so like so much grace and beauty, and I felt it and just when I
mm,
cried, and it just like and it blew my mind of holy fuck, I was just dancing in a way that was so beautiful that it made me cry.
mm,
I would have never dreamed of that being a reality for me. I wasn't a dancer growing up, but somehow by continuing to show up to ecstatic dance and training in dance and taking some dance classes and doing that all as an adult. So I didn't start as a kid. I was able to create for myself an experience of moving my body so deeply that like I cried. I wept from the beauty moving through my body.
mm,
Um, and and I really believe that like we can do that with anything. And and I'm sort of all over the place, but I'm trying to tie together some of the things that we said. Like I resonate so much with the like Renaissance man archetype. And I mean there's even these whole aspects of myself and my creativity and my artistry and who I am that like the world doesn't even know. And like I just share them with my friends. Like there's whole careers and aspects of me that are so fun, but like I just like I don't need to share it with the world because like I know who I am and I don't need to share that. um if it's time to share it, then I will. um and just the joy of growth and the joy of creation and the joy of self-expression, like the joy of authentic self-expression is greater than like any high or getting drunk. Like
Yep.
I, I was I drank very, very heavily from ages 18 to I think 33. I've been like essentially sober for the past 10 years. Um, I just don't need it. It just fell out of my life because I started helping people directly, making money, traveling the world, becoming friends with all my heroes, having like super amazing sex, opening up my body through like dance and and getting to experience like the joy of creation, the pure joy of of creation. And and to kind of ground this all home, my favorite place to enjoy, hands down, the joy of creation is in the bedroom.
Mm.
Like there's no other place. Second to it is helping people heal and grow their business and call in their love and the coaching work that I've been doing. That I'd say that's a close second. Um, but when I finish that creative act and and I get up, after cuddling with my beloved and I feel myself in my body, I'm like, oh yeah, this is where it's fucking at right here.
Mm.
And I'll even look at myself in the mirror. Like I'm like 50% more handsome and built and like after having sex. Like it's amazing how much like the body shape shifts based off of the consciousness that we're embodying and based on the activities that we're doing. And I'll look at myself in the mirror after just like a real profound lovemaking session and just be like, God damn, you look amazing. You never look like that, but you always look like that after sex. Like it's like gravity and alignment and peace and like all that is good. It's like all that is good in life has landed in my body after like a really profound lovemaking session.
Nice.
And I'm gonna I'm gonna pass the mic over to you. So I'm enjoying round two because I'm enjoying this badminton game that we have going on here.
Mm. I actually wrote under the post of like, well, it's not live yet, but when people are watching this, it will be live of our first conversation. The second sentence is, uh, I once heard that the two most powerful arenas for a man to grow are sex and business. And it pretty much stands true for me. I mean, of course, you can go into nuances, but yeah, I can see that. And it sounds like you share that, at least to some degree. Uh,
Yeah, I would add parenting as well, and
Parenting.
yeah, not that I have from personal experience, but
Mhm.
parenting is
Nice.
parenting parenting is gangster as fuck. So
Nice. Yeah, it's cool. Thanks for adding that. Um, I want to go back to something that you said about the like fixing the problem solving kind of the like stereotypically like male stuff to masculine stuff to do, and just acknowledge the flip side of that, because in my early 20s I spent a lot of time in uh I would say like very feminine oriented uh places. And what I mean by that is like, so there's lots of focus on like embracing your feelings, sharing what's
Mhm,
going
mhm,
on for you, a lot about like compassion. So for example, the like like following this Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh and like his teachings, which are just so much about compassion, like in a really beautiful way. And it's impacted me a lot. And I have found that um, they have these like different kinds of meditations, like kind of applied meditations, where it's not about just sitting in silence, but it's like a walking meditation or like an eating meditation, and like and you take in like like every step or every bite that you take, like you fully take it in, um,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I've really struggled with those meditations like for a long time, and then I think by now I can really enjoy them, like walking super slowly in the woods and kind of like really tracking how my body's feeling. And at the same
Yeah.
time, and this is why I'm saying this, I have these moments in my daily life, especially when I'm not kind of sharing space with my partner, that I just love I just love working and getting stuff done. And then uh eating is not primarily a source of like deep joy and uh you know like this kind of like how you were or how we've been talking about this like like taking in like with all of your senses and all this stuff. It's more like, yep, let me just get something down to continue
Mhm.
working. And I'm saying that because it took me some time to reclaim that is totally fine and beautiful as well, right? Like not to kind of shift from one extreme to the other and being like, and now every time you eat, you like have to create this like super
Mhm.
sacred magical space where like,
Yeah, yeah, with like a 10 with a 10-minute invocation
and
to all the
gratitude
deities.
and and connecting to like all the different kind of foods that you're taking in. Like those are all beautiful things, but it was such a relief. It's like to just like, yeah, sometimes I'm just really a dude who like just wants to eat and continue working. So
Mhm.
yeah, just to acknowledge that and we were actually talking about this before we started recording, like how, there are all these dualities and it's so easy to like um believe one is the truth and then like kind of shift full pendulum swing to the other side and um yeah, just that relief of being like, oh, like I'm the full spectrum of this, and my invitation is to be true to myself moment to moment, to be what is my deepest, most truthful, whatever enjoyable expression in this present moment. And it can be all those things. And
Mhm.
they're not mutually exclusive. And in some moments, absolutely I can be much more on one side or the other.
Yeah, yeah. And when we're driven by like a higher purpose as well, then that can just in terms of like production and creation. Um, I've had a lot of stints in the I'd say in the past year where by the standards in which I normally live, I was living like a quote unquote sort of unhealthy lifestyle with like less sleep, more work, more staring at screens, but like that's just what was necessary. And I was so willing to do the work in order to create the outcome that I want that's connected to the higher purpose. And um yeah, yeah. I've had seasons of like living in almost like pure feminine flow, like living in Bali for months at a time and just my schedule being like eating mangoes and like getting a massage. Like I've had those times which were so necessary and such a deep reset and like so much just healing and goodness and like getting into my like my cells and just being like rejuvenated like by the land and the people there and the community. Um yeah, and then I'd say out of the probably in the past like 3 months I've been probably staring at a screen for 60 hours a week, um, in very, very deep like mental space because that's what was required of me
Mhm.
for for what I'm doing, and I'm okay with that. There's a um, I I love I love cross training capacity, which is something that we also teach in the program. We share with men to, play on the full spectrum of the masculine experience, play in holy and filthy, play in light and dark, play in like, penetrating and receiving. Like there's all these, there's so much that's available to play in the bedroom energetically and sexually. And again, like why not, right? Like why not build that capacity?
Mm,
Um, yeah. Like part of my like personal journey, I've been like BDSM and kink like adjacent, I think, for like years. I've had lovers and friends who are just like kind of deeper in the scene, but I never had like that full body heart calling to just like really like dive into that space. And I'd say maybe like in like the past year, I've felt the aspects of me of like, oh, there he is. Okay, he'd be really good at being a service dom. And yeah, okay, there the impact play, and yeah, and the like erotic linguistics. I'm like, yeah, 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 okay, okay. I guess I do feel pretty comfortable in the BDSM space, like even though I haven't done like a lot of like dungeon play or like in that space. But that's one example for me of something that uh, I've gotten closer and closer to. I'd say sexually, that's probably like really like the only edge that I haven't like fully like, dove in and created my own like immersive like boot camp experience like I have of a lot of other like experiences and flavors.
mm,
Um, and that's just like that's me listening to myself of like, oh, like
yeah,
when 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 do I have like the space to change, right? Because like we're always in a process of change. When do I have the space to change? And there's all these kind of like different iterations of myself in the future that I'm tracking, like different things that I'm gonna really like give myself to, like to the study of, and 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 go from just having a desire to have that be me. But I also know like there's like a sequence of me moving through linear time with the responsibilities and the agreements that I have. So yeah, so like being a really amazing chef, like that's in the future, not right now. Being a really amazing like dom, I'm like, yeah, that does feel like it's in the future. But like it'll come in, like it'll land in in the time that's ready for. And I'm just, I can like rest in that. And I can rest in the perfection of who I am and the perfection of who everyone is. Like the present perfection. I
yep,
can accept him and then just continue to be open to life and trusting that, I will always need to know what I need to know when I need to know it.
yep. Yeah, that's a theme that consistently comes up when I talk to either clients or friends, where they like anyone who has like the ability to dream big and be super creative and like very divergent thinking,
Mhm.
this real challenge of not making all these ideas and the fact that they're not here yet and that we don't know
Mhm.
exactly how we will get there, not making that mean that there's anything wrong with where we're at right now. It's
Mhm.
like this ability to me, it always feels like, so one sentence that at some point came up that really helped me was, where I am is never in the way of where I want to be. It just really helped me shift something in my mind where I'm like, I want this, but there's this problem with me, so I cannot get there, to be like, huh, maybe that's not true at all. Like maybe like maybe connecting more deeply to what is right now and seeing the beauty of that is actually the way for me to get to like those bigger dreams that I have. And
Yeah, and yeah, in my personal experience, it is, yeah, of of moving through life from a place of wholeness,
yeah,
and a place of acceptance, instead of like a place of lack. just like the fuel source.
Yep.
It's like a different fuel source
Yep.
that that you know there is there is action that like heals and nourishes you as you take it because it's just aligned, like it's like aligned with life.
Hmm.
There is there is feedback. There is feedback where when I'm at my best, and I'm not always, but when I'm at my best, I can like I can use like direct feedback that cuts and heals at the same time.
Mm. Beautiful.
And right, and for me that like that's like the essence of like that's the essence of coaching or mentoring or parenting even, of just of like setting a standard but setting it with so much love,
Mm.
where as we share something that that cuts someone's idea of who they are or their idea of what the best way to operate or to manage or to make love is, it's underneath it is just unconditional love and acceptance for where they're at.
Mm.
and and when I am in that place and I speak from that place, that's when I'll say something and watch someone immediately get it and it'll land in their body and they will become a new person before my eyes
Mm.
because I spoke them into a better reality. And abracadabra means, like as I speak, I create, and we all have that ability to create better versions of each other.
Mhm. Yeah.
And again, like, why not do that all the time?
Mhm. The image that
We
also helps me is that the, I mean, similar to like the tree is already present in the seed. So like are all my, all my accomplishments, they're already with me right now. And when I can connect to that and see like where I am right now and even every step that I take, the whole thing is already in it. There's it's such a beautiful way to move through life. And it's not like I'm there all the time, but when I am, and it does feel easier when you accompany someone else to like look at them through that lens. It's yeah, it's great.
Yes, yes, yes,
There's one other thing I
yes,
wanted to
yes.
bring in. Um, okay for you if I bring in another thing?
After I share, like, and that's the place to make love from. That's it. Just yeah, this this energy that you and I have been like dancing in and resting in, in the out in the field, between right and wrong, there I will meet you. That like Rumi quote, like that's where to fuck from.
Yeah,
Just fucking fucking set up shop there.
yeah.
And that is an like a never-ending source of nourishment and beauty and ecstasy and connection and just joyous co-creation and illumination. And so I just wanted to add that. So go for it, brother.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to bring in, and just checking the time, well,
Mhm.
slowly wrap up. Um, so we're talking about like playing the full spectrum and like all these different ways that we can express ourselves as men and how like, all of them are beautiful. And I think this is where tracking energy becomes really powerful as
Mhm.
to, because then the question can be like, well, yeah, but then, like, how do I know what is called for? And I think what many of us are used to is like operating from a very mental place of like, well, this is how I should be, this is how I get approval, this is like all of these ideas. And then, you know, focusing on certain things that are part of me. And it's very different to follow to follow where energy actually flows or wants to flow towards. Because
Mhm.
also before we started our conversation, we were talking about the bigger theme of like energy and how like there's there's always untapped energy that we can potentially access, and I think this ability to track like where is life pulling us to, like which aspects of ourselves are we invited to strengthen. And the challenge there, I think, is that we all have our conditioning of like who we're supposed to be or like what feels safer to be, all these things. And but then it's like it's not always the right thing to just do the exact opposite of what we've always done, like to just invert it. Sometimes that can be fun, but I think the ultimate skill is like tracking what is really most called for me as a man on my path right now, and then to
Yeah.
allow myself to go in that direction without making it mean that like all of these other things are not true anymore, or like all sorts of assumptions that can come from focusing on one particular side of me.
I'm curious what you're noticing in your body after sharing that.
I think it's something that I'm really passionate about. That feels like it feels like a big accomplishment having arrived in that place. uh,
Beautiful.
yeah, I've been part of like the men's movement in Europe for the past
Mhm.
5 years, and just being confronted with such such different ways of looking at masculinity, and like how to move forward as a society, like really being challenged in my own perspectives and assumptions, and then noticing like how I recoil, like I pull back, and I think like, oh, like how I look at life is wrong, and then sort of broadening that and being able to hold someone else's perspective and being like, hey, yeah, and like what I'm exploring right now is this, and doesn't exclude what this person is saying.
Yeah, so to directly answer your question, um, something we teach in the program is something called we call it quantum listening.
Mhm.
And it's really just like it's as simple as listening with your body. And it's a skill that can be taught. And it's something that we teach through the program through different exercises and different breakout sessions that we put them in through. Um, our bodies are we have body intelligence that most people are just disconnected from. I have a level of like just like psychic abilities that lives in my body. And that comes from, being a yoga teacher and doing a lot of meditation, becoming so intimate with my own emotions and sensations and the ways that like energy moves through my body, so that I then became yeah, just a more clear instrument of listening to the bodies around me. Um, yeah, it's a process. The way that we teach it is, like as you're making love, like the more present you are, you can future sense like different potentialities, and you can actually like future sense in your beloved's body. Okay, so right now it's like seven different moves just came up, and it's all happening in the quantum computer of this like bioorganic like the most amazing piece of technology on the planet, which is your human body. And oh, here's these like seven different moves. I can do this one. I can choke her here. I can go here and say something kind of dirty in her ear. I can just like fuck her pussy real hard. I can reach around here and grab her ass. The one that actually has the most energy is just looking at her and saying, "Hey, I love you."
Mm,
And then you do that one. And then she receives it, and then it opens up like the next layer of direct experience.
mhm,
And then from there, it's so miraculous, and it's so different than what I experienced for like the first 75% of my life. Like it is so different and a billion times better what what I'm trying to describe. And I didn't even know it was possible. But in that place, there is a embodied discovery of who I am. And like and it it just feels like almost like aspects of myself that I didn't allow in my body can finally like come home. And sometimes they're just like heart-openingly beautiful, right? Just the like weeping with your beloved, like I love you, and like feeling your hearts like in union. I I wish that for every human. Um, and sometimes it is just really out there stuff, man. Like we share a lot of our like sex stories from beyond in the program, but I mean I've had times where I'll share these too. I mean, I had one where I felt orgasmic energy like in my sacral center, and I felt that I had access to it from my breath, and I like I like brought the energy up from my like up from my sacral center, and and I I transmitted like pure orgasmic energy through my breath into my beloved's brain. I was just like, and she was just like she had all these like brain orgasms. Um, yeah, that's the only one that I'll share. I mean, we shared dozens of these in inside the program. Um, but yeah, just so much opens up. Uh, and it's such a magnificent playground. I think one of my favorite feelings, and I really do wish this for everyone who's listening. One of my favorite feelings is like feeling the animal primal part of me like come home and feel welcomed and feel embraced. Like there is it is so it is so good for my body to feel that. And I can feel in her body, it's so good for her body. There's a there's just like viscous like nourishment, like there's just like this deep deep nourishment when our animal expressions can just be fully present and fully welcomed and fully embraced and not shamed or demonized or judged or made wrong, but just like just fully in expression. Like it feels extremely healing. I feel like in my hips and like in my genitals and even in the constitution of my energy when I feel into into those places. Like it has a similar quality to like drinking bone broth or like eating liver like in my body as I track it. Like there's this real like kind of like bone broth, liver kind of body, like spirit connecting into flesh that happens in those experiences. I have a hunch that you know what I'm talking about since you did share the experience of you and your beloved crawling as animals and feeling that like primal nature. And that is like that's the antidote to the sick society that we grew up in that demonizes sexuality and
Yeah.
tells people if you have sex, you're going to go to hell, or your body is dirty, or your body is sinful. So that's like the direct antidote to that curse
Yes.
that so many people are unconsciously living into.
Yeah.
So so like is this about sex? Like yeah, it's about sex, and it's also about like reclaiming who you are on the deepest levels
Mhm.
of of the human experience, like and your soul.
I would add to the future sensing
Mm-hmm.
that I think where it becomes really juicy and also challenging is if there is an impulse that completely goes against any kind of script that you have of like what's supposed to be going
Mm.
on, like being in this like really like super sexy space. And then I remember one time just having this impulse to like put my head in the laps of my partner.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was like, it was challenging to go there because, that's not what's supposed to be happening since whatever was happening before that. But then it just opened up so much like love and uh
Yeah, gorgeous.
connection.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's and I notice like when such an impulse comes up, this is where I really meet an edge of like, oh, okay. Kind of like this, like, are we sure we're supposed to trust these impulses that come through, or like, would it actually be better to, stay on course with whatever has been happening? So, yeah, I guess kind of like an encouragement to allow yourself to like change pace and go into something completely different if there's like a clear impulse in that direction. And um the worst that can happen is that you then realize, oh, well, there wasn't energy in there. Cool. Now I know.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, yeah, and your I I love that question. I also love laying in a woman's lap and having her like pet me like a kitten. It's like one of my favorite experiences. Like I'm I'm definitely all about that life. I'm all about just like receiving love and like feeling small and feeling vulnerable and letting her just like love me. Um, and and the more that we explore the deepest edges of our impulses and our creative impulses in lovemaking, the more that is shown to us. You know, we can't get those feedback loops from playing video games or talking to other people about it. We can only get those actual feedback loops like in the actual act of it.
Yeah.
Um,
It's such a
yeah.
beautiful parallel to entrepreneurship there. Just like we can talk about,
Hmm.
what works and what doesn't work, or we actually take a small step in a particular direction, gather new data, and then
Yeah.
something new opens up from there.
Hmm. Yeah. And and all the way through, just being like, yep, I'm always learning or I'm winning. Just everything. Everything is a win. Yeah. I just learned that like that's not the best way to touch her. I was a little bit uncalibrated.
Mhm.
Um, but now that I know, then I won't do that again. And now I'm a much more calibrated man in connection with her. Um, can I share one thing that I know we're wrapping up? Can I just share one thing that I would love to share? Yeah, on calibration, it it really is around like presence and attunement and receptivity. Um, these different components of being present. And I remember at some point, like in the past year, I was making love, and um, in the past, when like a woman's body would open up and just like kind of have that level of openness, then I would just kind of go from like 0 to like 100, like full primal, like kind of like, all right, it's time to go into like gorilla mode. It's time to just like let that go. But this one time recently, I when I listened, I was like, oh, what's being asked for from the body is only about like 70% gorilla fucking. So let me bring down the intensity to like what's actually like I could hear it in my body. I was like, oh, this is what's actually meant. So so then I went into an expression that was less than my ego wanted to, because my ego wanted to be like, yeah, now it's time to fuck, right? Like that was my ego, like, yeah, now it's time to unleash the beast, right? That's like that was this like idea that I had of what good sex is. But I listened to what was actually there. And when I met her in that space, all of this like just this like orgasmic energy and like all this energy flooded into the system. And she said, "Thank you for being so calibrated to me." And that blew my mind. Oh wow. You're calibrating how calibrated I am? That makes sense. Right? And that's where, right? And then like, you're calibrating to how calibrated I am. So we both know that we're calibrating to each other. We can relax into that and be in even deeper calibration. And ooh, and what happens from here? I don't know, but I'm gonna find out with you.
Mm,
What an and what an honor it is to find out what's possible in a human body with you. Like, thank you, beloved.
mm,
And um, so yeah, one of my best friends, one of my best female friends, she calls that like meeting the meeting the thresholds, and I love that language. You know, it's like meeting those like thresholds, those kind of the liminal space in lovemaking. It's like meeting those like thresholds with just total consciousness, and then listening for like what is meant to move through you,
mm,
or listening to what is destined to move through you in that moment, just with such with such deep listening that you can't make a mistake. Like you can't fuck it up. Just you just continue to listen to what's there. There are no wrong moves from that place,
yeah,
because you're in such intimate union with your own body and your own intuition and your own needs.
yeah,
And again, it will likely be in many moments for the rest of your life, things that you've never experienced before, or things that might feel so scary,
mm,
or so weird too.
mm,
Like armpits are orgasmic. Women can orgasm from their throat. There's like all, like there's so much more that opens up when we go off the map of like, I put my penis in your vagina and that's what sex is.
mhm,
Yeah. But yeah, I meet the thresholds with absolute presence, and you will be rewarded with just priceless treasures that no one can take from you, and that are only meant for you. Like these are your treasures
mm,
when you show up to these moments with absolute presence. God, that's beautiful. I love being alive, man.
mm, mm.
Like what a what a gift to have a human body.
Yeah, and how much meaning you can experience in such a visceral sense.
Indeed.
Sweet. Well, as we're wrapping up, and have been for the past 20 minutes, is there anything? So obviously we'll put the Men of Substance info again somewhere around the video. Is there anything that you feel called to express um, with your voice rather than through the text, the copy that's part of the sales page?
Yeah, this like extraordinary, otherworldly, supernatural, mystical sex is available for you. It can be learned. It can be taught. It can be taught online, which is something that surprised both Rob and I. It can be transmitted online. If anything that I shared, um, yeah, just felt meaningful to you, or felt useful, just I'd love a message. Like, you can just send me like a message on Facebook. I love knowing and hearing stories from people who, take things that I say on the internet and then implement them in their lives to get better results and outcomes for them and for their family. The next round starts on June 11th. We're in special pre-launch pricing right now, so you can take advantage of that for the next weekend. I also do run a private coaching practice where I mentor entrepreneurs one-on-one. If you feel like there's something there's something here, then feel free and reach out to me and we can have a conversation. And yeah, thanks for listening. Thank you for gifting David and I with one of your most precious resources, your time and your attention. So I don't take that lightly.
Beautiful closing words. Thank you, Michael. And to be continued.
All right. Thank you, friend.